Hi everyone, Cindy here with Create Your Own Luck in Love and your host for the Successful Woman's Guide to Meet and Marry Her Man. I'm so excited to be here with you guys tonight and talking about narcissism. The subject comes up often. It comes up quite a bit, and it's really interesting, excuse me, and it's become more prevalent and identifiable within our society today. So give me hearts, give me questions, anything, and I will be more than happy to respond to your questions, and feel free to give me any feedback too. So, jumping into narcissism, what it is, what it means. Narcissistic tendencies are the tendency to be highly selfish, self-centered, and the tendency is to project. So when that transpires, there's all kinds of different things that can actually happen with a narcissist and somebody with narcissistic tendencies. Are they necessarily harmful? Well, yes, they can be, because what can happen if you've been with someone whose tendency is to be narcissistic, I can't even say the word, in their life and around them, their tendency is going to be more about self. So there are different personality traits that can go around with narcissism, or even psychopathic tendencies too. And I've talked a little bit about this before, but sticking along the lines of a narcissist, in the beginning they can be very charming, kind. There is a saying that's thrown around a lot called love bombing. So they will be very affectionate to win your heart over in the beginning, and then what happens is oftentimes once they feel like you're invested in them, they will start subtle changes of pulling away. They will start subtle criticisms, and some signs of a narcissist is selfish and self-seeking, and also highly critical. And another tendency of a narcissist is someone who is what's the word I'm looking for, doesn't take responsibility or projects things onto you. So they might project a feeling onto you. So maybe they are feeling guilty about something. Maybe they're not up to something right. So there can be deception, dishonesty that kind of falls into more of the psychopath. But a narcissist, and I will let you guys know, I actually watched this movie over the weekend randomly, and I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's kind of an odd film, but it was an all-star cast with Dustin Hoffman, Adam Sandler, and oh man, I can't think of his name right now. His name totally escapes me. Zoolander. what's his name, the Crusher. Anyways, you know who I'm talking about. It was a all-star cast, and it was about a father who was narcissistic, and some of his tendencies and what the children did for the father. And I won't give it away, but it was definitely an interesting movie. So one of the things that I promised you on my email was to help you guys identify narcissism early on when you're dating. And so the thing about that, it's actually fairly easy to tell, because with a narcissist, again, they're very charming and charismatic. Now, not that every narcissist is charming, comes across that way, but that is a trait for the most part, especially when it comes to a narcissistic man. And if it's serving him, he'll do it. If it's serving him, he'll do it. And he may appear. Also, the thing about narcissists, they want to look good. So they will sometimes do grandiose gestures in order to look good to everyone around them. So how to tell a narcissist early on is, again, it can be hard if you're not trained, and here's why. Because they are so charming, or their tendency is to be so charming, that it can be hard to see through what they might be sharing with you. So the bottom line is they can be good bullshitters. But if you're listening, and this goes true for all men, most men, I would say 90%, is that they share who they are in the very beginning before they're emotionally really tied to you. So even if he's trying to impress you, so you go out together on your first date, let's say you meet online, and it's getting dark out here quick. And what can happen is you ask him a question like, why did you get divorced? And really listen to learn. Oh, my wife filed for divorce. That must have been really difficult. Lean into it. What happened? So you're not being suspicious. You're trying to figure it out. And usually they will share with you. And what I find is that if you're really enjoying yourself, or you think, the guy seems great, he will give you signs. He may say, well, she said she didn't love me anymore. She, whatever. She swept the rug right out from underneath me. But there had to be some things that transpired for her to do that. Women just don't leave unless they're really unhappy. Or, it always takes two to tango. So if he's not fully taking responsibility, if he says, well, I ended up having an affair on my wife, and and leaning into it instead of going, oh, that's horrible, you jerk. Lean into it. Find out more. And you will get a good sense. Well, she stopped taking care of herself after she had our children. She didn't want to be intimate anymore. It could be any of those things. I tried to work things out. She wasn't willing. But if they're not fully taking responsibility, for their part, that's a really, really big sign. And the way they talk about an ex is also very defining. So if they talk negatively about an ex, or they don't hold them high, and granted, we all have stuff, right? I mean, it's natural, but what if you don't say, well, at the end of the day, I made that choice, and I can definitely see where there was a disconnect around this. Maybe she was a narcissist, we don't know. But, all of this comes from childhood. It comes from a disconnect in childhood. It comes from parents being more emotionally caught up in themselves, so to speak, or busy with lives and basically disconnected. So we are trained from that, and so those are some areas where it comes from. Some ways to also get, stop having narcissistic people in your life is really to look at, people that take responsibility. Look at who you're chemically attracted to, and also remember, like attracts like. So there's either something in your past, something in your childhood, something in you that might be attracted to that's disconnected somehow. I can identify with that. I've been there myself. And it was without knowing at the time what was really going on and what triggered the attraction. So oftentimes our attractions can come from our wounding. Psychopaths are much more dangerous because, and I don't want to go too deeply into that, I do want to stay more around the narcissism right now, but psychopaths can tend to be emotionally more unstable. They can have multiple lives going on. There's a safety factor that's lacking. And so if, we can oftentimes, if we want to be in a relationship, we can fool ourselves to think, wow, it's going to be okay. He's going to come around. And, there are different bargaining points when it comes to, and I don't want to say bargaining, but there are different negotiations when it comes to relationships. And different times, different places, it happens, throughout the trajectory, throughout your entire relationship as you continue to grow old together, hopefully. There's always negotiation happening. But the biggest thing to understand, if someone isn't concerned about you and your feelings, has a tendency to disconnect, lacks empathy, lacks compassion, those are surefire signs. And part of the idea is to move slower as you're getting to know somebody in the beginning, to move faster later on and get to know multiple people at once. And with the idea of, I know what I want, I know what I'm desiring in my love life, I feel like I'm like like the poltergeist right now. Sorry, I'm outside and it's hot here in San Diego. It's like 85, 90 degrees. It's crazy. Anyway, it's much nicer to be outside since I don't have air conditioning. So, forgive me for this. I do want to support you with this information and, you know, help you guys along the way of, you know, getting a clear vision. What do I see in my life? What do I desire? What do I want as far as partnership? What does that look like to me? How do I want to feel in relationship? And then opening that up to the prospect of getting to know people and finding time to open up to that. And if there's a disconnect happening, let me know. Post below. Set up a time to chat with me, because oftentimes it's a little tweak that can help you. And if you have this goal and intention of bringing in the love of your life, and even if you haven't been successful in the past, you know that you're on here and that it's possible. So again, this is Cindy Olin with Create Your Own Luck and Love, your host for the Successful Woman's Guide to Meet and Marry Her Man. Send me hearts, send me comments. Let me know, is this resonating with you? Do you have questions? What, you know, criticism too, I want to dive into this, is another big piece when it comes to narcissism. Somebody that nitpicks, like the dishes aren't done correctly, they might even have a tendency to be controlling in the sense of, you know, whatever you deem to look like controlling. Even, gosh, you know, are you really going to wear that? Or that dress looks a little tight. So there's those types of tendencies, which if you have chemistry with someone and are attracted to them, can seem like caring gestures, when in fact it becomes creepy. It becomes psychopathic. So psychopathic, remember the movie Sleeping with the Enemy? That's psychopathic. That's where I own you. I control you. And yes, there are different levels where it can go. And it can take, what's scary about psychopaths is it can take years for it to fully unfold and come out. It's kind of like if you've ever talked to people or known anyone that has had, you know, a partner that ended up to becoming an alcoholic or a drug addict of sorts. Chances are that may not have seemed like a problem earlier on, and it progressed, or things in life triggered the progression of that. It's very similar with a psychopath, as I start to look like Halloween right in front of your eyes. I hope this is helpful, you guys. Please let me know what's coming up for you. If you have questions, comments, you know, anything deeper you want to know, I'm happy to share. I know this can be very broad, and I wanted to cover at least this piece to help you if you've been in a relationship with a narcissist or someone that has gone to that controlling, almost psychopathic tendency. It can feel scary. It can feel overwhelming to move forward. It can feel all sorts of different ways. But know that you're not alone, and know that there's support and ways to look at this and honor yourself as you gain this knowledge and stand in your power, so that you're not a victim any longer, and looking at ways within which that you can shift your dating and your love perspective to be armed in your personal power full of loving yourself and really letting love in. So again, you guys, I hope this is helpful. Please let me know any questions, comments. I'm here. Everything will be answered. I'm sending so much love, and have an amazing Monday night. Mwah. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.